we're singing a special song today. It's called Ye Anilo Premadhana, if you want to look it up. Je anilo premadhana karuna prachur heino prabhu kota gela charjatakur kaha mora swarup rupa kaha sanatan kaha dāsa raghunata patita pavan kaha mora bhata juga kaha kaviraj ekakale kota gela gauranata pashane kuti mata anale pashibo Gauranga gunera nidhe kota gele pavo Shaishaba shangira sange Je koilo bilas Se sangana paya kande narotamadas Je anilo premadhana karuna prachur Heino prabhu kota gela charjatakur Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Varivrajikacharya Stotara Sata Shri Śrīmad His Divine Grace Srila Bhai Charanavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Stotara Sata Shri Śrīmad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Kantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai Srila Madhavendra Puri Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the non-assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we're reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 2.8.26. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Name Sava Parayanti. Brahman Anashanadami. Pibato Chuta Piyusham. Tadvakyabdhi Vinishritam. Name Sava Parayanti. Brahman Anashanadami. Pibato Chuta Piyusham. Tadvakyabdhi Vinishritam. Please chant. Name Sava Parayanti. Brahman Anashanadami. Pibato Chuta Piyusham.
Tadvakyabdhi Vinishritam. Name Sava Parayanti.
Name Sava Parayanti. Brahmanana Sanadami. Pibato Chuta Piyusam. Tadvakyabdhi Vinisritam. So the translation is, O learned Brahmana, because of my drinking the nectar of the message of the infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, I do not feel any sort of exhaustion due to my fasting. So this is very relevant for all of us that we were fasting yesterday. So from hearing this Bhagavatam, we shouldn't feel any exhaustion. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The disciplic succession from Brahma, Narada, Vyasa, and Shukadev Goswami is particularly different from others. The disciplic successions from other sages are simply a waste of time, being devoid of achutya katha, or the message of the infallible Lord. The mental speculators can present their theories very nicely by reason and arguments, but such reasons and arguments are not infallible, for they are defeated by better mental speculators. Maharaj Parikshit was not interested in the dry speculation of the flickering mind, but he was interested in the topics of the Lord, because factually he felt that by hearing such a nectarian message from the mouth of Shukadev Goswami, he was not feeling any exhaustion, even though he was fasting because of his imminent death. One can indulge in hearing the mental speculators, but such hearing cannot endure for any length of time. One will be exhausted very soon from hearing such hackneyed ways of thinking, and no one in the world can be satisfied simply by hearing such useless speculations. The message of the Lord, especially from a personality like Shukadev Goswami, can never be tiring, even though one may be exhausted from other causes. In some editions of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the text of the last line of this verse reads, Anyatra kupita dvijat, which means that the king might be overwhelmed by the thought of his imminent death by snakebite. The snake is also twice born, and its anger is compared to the cursing Brahmana boy who was without good intelligence. Maharaj Parikshit was not at all afraid of death, for he was fully encouraged by the message of the Lord. One who is fully absorbed in achutya katha can never be afraid of anything in this world. Translation one more time. O learned Brahmana, because of my drinking the nectar of the message of the infallible personality of Godhead, which is flowing down from the ocean of your speeches, I do not feel any sort of exhaustion due to my fasting. Om Gyantamarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karati Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurundinataranam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is one of those really nice verses that glorifies hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam or hearing Achyutya Katha, which is the... This is weird, I'm like all the way facing this way. There's one audience. So, Achyutya Katha, hearing topics about the infallible Lord. And yeah, it gives us like a kind of a taste for how sweet, how relishable it is. Even though right in this state we might not necessarily have full realization, a full taste of that sweetness. So yeah, as I was saying before, this verse particularly is very suitable after fasting, because Maharaj Parikshit was fasting for 7 days before death from all food and water, and he was completely absorbed in hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam from Shukadev Goswami. But here he's saying that he doesn't feel any fatigue, he doesn't feel any suffering, because Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is so sweet, it's so full of nectar that it is fully nourishing him, fully satisfying him. Which is why in one verse in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, first canto, second chapter, there's a word, one line of it is Rasayana Katha. So it's describing topics about the Lord, particularly the Bhagavatam, that it's a Rasayana, which means a life-giving elixir. So by hearing these topics, it actually is giving us real life. It's reinstating us in our real life. So in that way, it's actually giving us real nectar, real life, not by maintaining our material body, which is temporary. It's not our real life. And so, yeah, the holy name and Krishna Katha, they're the real sustenance for the soul. And it's so sweet that devotees can easily give up all other forms of sustenance, materially or mentally, sleep and so on and so forth. That it's so sweet that we get a higher taste by chanting, by reading, by hearing topics about Krishna. And in that way, we don't feel the pangs of material nature. There's a nice verse in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that directly describes this. 177, which is, I'll just read the translation. Simply by giving all reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. So these things, lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness, they're destroyed by giving submissive oral reception to the message of Bhagavatam. Practically all people in all walks of life, every part of the world, well, not even humans, every living entity, we're trying to avoid lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. Because these are things we don't want. they cause us suffering. It's not enjoyable at all. And so there's so many, extraneous endeavors that we go through. So many things we do other than take shelter of Krishna to try and eliminate these things and to minimize the suffering, maximize the enjoyment. But it's so nice that actually just by taking shelter of Krishna, we maximize our enjoyment and we automatically destroy all suffering. There's nothing else that we need to do other than taking shelter of Krishna for satisfying that. And it's also nice, Prabhupada mentions in the end of the purport that Maharaj Parikshit, he factually felt the sustenance. He factually felt this sustenance that was being given by Achyutakata, by the message of Krishna. So we all experience this, that it's pratsavakamam, like it says in the verse, Raja Vidya Raja Guyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyakshavagam Dhamyam Susukam Kartamaviyam, that it's observable by practical experience. You can, when you come in contact with Krishna consciousness, with the holy name, with a really nice kirtan, chanted by devotees that are pure, by hearing topics about Krishna, by tasting prasadam that's been made with devotion, offered with a lot of devotion, then pratyakshavagam, we experience with our senses. You can practically experience Krishna. You can practically experience spirit or transcendental existence. And so Maharaj Parikshit was actually feeling this, and so in that way he didn't feel any exhaustion. He didn't feel any lamentation, any anxiety that, I'm going to die in a few days, 7 days, which is like practically nothing. He was feeling totally protected, and Prabhupada says something very nice also, the very last line of the purport, that one who is fully absorbed in Achyutya Katha can never be afraid of anything in this world. So if everything we're listening to, every spare moment we have, we're absorbed in Achyutya Katha, which also means hearing the holy name, then we can never be afraid of anything in this world. But if we're absorbing our time in hearing, topics of mental speculators, non-devotees, about their theories of the world or what's going on, or the governments, or we're hearing from news channels, we're hearing from this, we're hearing from that, then we're going to be afraid of things in this world, because that's the nature. When one turns away from Krishna, they're immediately, when one turns one's face from Krishna, then one is immediately in a fearful condition. Just like when one turns away from the sun, then automatically there's many shadows, flickering shadows in it. Is a fearful situation of life. So we have to, as much as we can, try to be fully absorbed in Achyutya Katha. So we'll never be afraid. And the other theme that Prabhupada is expanding in the purport is that as devotees or persons who are following Krishna and his opinion, his verdict of reality, he's saying we have no, that we have no business hearing from imperfect souls, from mental speculators, jnanis, yogis, karmis, modern day persons who are devoid of transcendental knowledge, transcendental realization of God, that because they have imperfect senses, tendency to commit mistakes, imperfect knowledge, we can't benefit from hearing from them because they're the opposite of infallible. They're fallible. And in this verse, Krishna is being described as infallible. I looked up the exact definition of infallible, which is very nice. It's incapable of making mistakes or being wrong. So Krishna is incapable of making mistakes. He can't be wrong because whatever he decides, that's right, you know. So if we try to understand what then Krishna's opinion is, what Krishna's verdict is, then and imbibe it and act accordingly, then we also are considered infallible. We can't be wrong. We can't make a mistake. It's just like someone's giving it's like Game of Life, that board game. There's certain things you can do that progress your life. It's like all about material life, but progress your life. And there's certain things you can do that will hamper it, that'll make you lose faster or will make it more difficult to succeed. So if we follow Krishna, he's just like the creator of the board game, So he has the cheat sheet, and he can tell us, do this, don't do this, don't pick up this card, move this many spaces, do all these things. And so if we just follow the designer of the game, then we can't make a mistake. We'll be guided perfectly. And so this is, we receive instruction from Krishna primarily through Shastra. Not many of us receive direction directly in the heart. That's quite rare to, directly from Krishna at all moments receive guidance. Sometimes we experience that, we can feel Paramatma is telling us, guiding us this way, that way. Don't do this, or in spiritual moments, we receive that guidance. That is definitely real and true. But generally, we receive guidance from Shastra, from the scriptures, the topics that are given by Krishna for our guidance. So this is called Shastriya Shraddha, which we must make sure that our understandings of reality and of transcendental reality, spiritual reality and material reality, that they fall under the guidance of Shastra, because otherwise we're in a dangerous position. Just like someone, if we try and make up our own rules, like right now we're in America. So the American government has particular rules, for governing the country, governing the people, and all that sort of thing. So if we don't follow the rules, then, unfortunately we have to be punished in the material sense. Just like, sometimes we forget our metro card or something, and then we have to jump the turnstile or go through the gate or something like that. And so, then we're breaking the rules, and then, the natural consequences, unfortunately, we have to receive a punishment for it if we're caught. So the thing is, though, with the material world, Krishna is all-pervading. Durga also being the policeman, you could say, of the material world. Policewoman, she's all-pervading. So if we jump the turnstile of the material world, she's always there to catch us. We can't avoid it. Whereas MTA, sometimes we can avoid them. So the importance of following Krishna's instructions, Prabhupada is bringing out. And also on this topic of drinking the nectar of Bhagavatam, it's a very nice topic that comes up many times. Also in third canto, chapter 2, chapter 25, text 25. Satam prasangan mama virya sambado bhavanti hrit karna rasayana katha Tajoshanad asvapavargyavartmani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramasiti. That in the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. So some important things in this verse relating. It's a very similar verse to the verse we were just reading now, but some very important points which His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu was giving in a class recently. It's such an important verse for Gaudiya Vaishnavas, for devotees that read Bhagavatam and put a lot of emphasis on Bhagavatam and on hearing pastimes of Krishna, because the verse is saying that in the association of pure devotees, that this discussion of pastimes and activities of Krishna is very pleasing and satisfying. So this is important, that the source we're hearing Bhagavatam, or we're hearing about Krishna from, is very important. So, and also the association, the persons that we're hearing it around, not just the speaker, but the other persons that are hearing it. Because if we're, for example, like, sometimes Prabhupada would say, or there's statements by the acharyas that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says in one place that a conditioned soul has no right to hear the leelas of Krishna, the pastimes of Krishna. And, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, for example, in his Mat, at one point, he forbid devotees from reading the 10th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam or the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So, how do we then reconcile that with other statements in Krishna Book? Prabhupada writes, as a paraphrase from commentary of 10th canto, that by hearing the pastimes of the gopis with Krishna, with faith, one's lust or one's material desire will actually decrease, and one's attraction for those pastimes will increase. So again, it comes down to the source and hearing with faith, because there's, if one's hearing with faith, the message actually enters the heart, and Krishna is manifest there. And it's purifying, as long as it's from the right source, who's speaking, in parampara and according to the scriptures and guru, what's being given by his guru, so on and so forth. So in that way, it's purifying. Krishna is directly present. But if one is hearing from, inauthentic or unbonafide sources about Krishna and the Rasa Lila and the, pastimes with the gopis and all these things, it actually increases the lust in the heart, and it hinders our advancement, because one's consciousness is thinking that it's just like material love affairs of this world, where it's completely different. It's of a completely different nature, just like iron and gold. They're of a completely different quality. So, this association is very important while hearing. And discussing these pastimes also, it's generally understood we don't discuss more intimate pastimes or more confidential subject matters in a general setting, like Lord Chaitanya. He didn't discuss the loving affairs of the gopis with Krishna amongst the common people, but only in very rare circumstances with very confidential associates, like Ramananda Roy, Swarup Damodar. And we also have to be selective who hears what we're discussing. That's important. And so yeah, the drinking of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, of Krishna Katha, it's like nectar, but it has to be drunk in the right way. So it's described by Bhaktivinoda Thakur that there's two different ways. There's krama-hina shravana-dāsa, which means hearing with fault, and krama-shuddha shravana-dāsa, which means hearing purely or hearing perfectly, and like hearing directly about Krishna. So krama-hina shravana-dāsa means that it's imperfect hearing, it's faulty hearing. So we're hearing with the mentality just to get some knowledge, just for gyan. So, let me memorize these facts, memorize, this day, memorize this, memorize that, which is, it can be helpful in remembering Krishna, but just on its own, it's not directly, it's not Shuddha Shravana-dāsa. It's not the stage of hearing directly about Krishna. So, also not, two other ways is not paying, our full attention. It's, the katha is going in and it's going out. Or hearing from an inauthentic source. Those are also considered hina, krama-hina shravana-dāsa. It's imperfect hearing. So, mostly it depends on our sincerity or on our mentality while hearing, which is, important, that same theme, that hearing is an active principle. It's not a passive principle. We don't, sit in the bathtub and put in a lecture and, just like relax and think about nothing while this thing is going, just to relax my mind. It's not like that. But it's an active principle that we actually have to reflect on what's being spoken, and we have to digest it and share it also with others. And that way it actually gets imprinted in the heart. We can realize it. So, krama-shuddha shravana-dāsa is hearing primarily directly about Krishna, and not so much his corollary subjects, like, for example, sometimes like devotees during class, they'll, bring up news stories, or they'll bring up, different things to illustrate a point, which is okay, sometimes we do that. But primarily, the understanding is we should be hearing directly about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, about Krishna. And also with submission, with a mood that, wow, Krishna is so amazing, he's so wonderful, and that, I don't understand Krishna, I'm very, fallen, I'm very contaminated and, covered by ignorance, but Krishna is so pure, he's so powerful that by my trying to understand him, by my trying to hear about him, he can enter my heart and reveal himself. So, so this is krama-shuddha shravana-dāsa, which also means that one's hearing with faith. They're hearing with faith in the speaker and faith in Shastra. And because of that faith, it's the key element that actually changes the heart. Because one can hear without faith for, many years, and they'll get some benefit, but not the ultimate goal, that Krishna is manifest in the heart, that we directly realize Krishna. So, it's important. And by hearing this, we directly get darshan of Krishna. So this is also another interesting thing that is discussed, that before actually seeing Krishna, the conditioned soul hears Krishna. So, you could say, well, how is that? Because I see the deity every day, or, So, because our rubber eyeballs, they're imperfect. Our material senses are imperfect. We try our best to understand Krishna, to perceive Krishna through them. But Krishna first is revealed through his holy name. And then through his holy name, his Nam, then the Guna, Rupa, Lila, they're all revealed subsequently. The holy name is described as like the key that opens the door to the other aspects of Krishna. And I don't think I'll discuss that. Yeah, so now I'd like to say something about Madhavendra Puri because it's such an important personality and acharya in our line. So just before we start that, Madhavananda Prabhu was recently discussing something I thought was really nice, is that when we hear or when we read Shastra or when we hear from devotees, when we hear lives of the acharyas, different things like that, it's important that we not just do it in a mechanical way, to obtain jnana, to obtain knowledge. For example, like he was born in this year and he did this and he liked to eat shak and he, lived in this place and he had this child and this was, and that's who he was. That's not all that, that's not the whole picture of what we should be trying to get, when we hear about the acharyas, when we hear messages from Shastra. But particularly when we're hearing lives of the devotees, great devotees, we should try to imbibe their mood. We should try and have their rati, their attachment, transferred to our heart and pray for their mercy. So there's a lot of lessons we can learn from Madhavendra Puri's life. For example, one time, Madhavendra Puri, he was a sannyasi, and he had traveled to Vrindavan, and he was very renounced. He was sitting underneath a tree near Govardhan Hill, in a place called Govindakund. You can still go there today. It's a very beautiful place, very peaceful. And he was just chanting his japa, and he refused to beg for food. So he was just completely depending on Krishna, and in his mind, that's how he was meditating. And so he was just chanting, and then all of a sudden a young cowherd boy comes up to him with a stick in his hand and a pot, clay pot. And Madhavendra Puri is chanting, and the boy comes up to him and, seemingly interrupts his meditation, and he says, what are you doing? Who are you? And Madhavendra Puri says, well, I'm traveling through here. My name is Madhavendra Puri, and then the boy says, well, why don't you beg something to eat? I've brought some milk for you, but I notice you don't go to the village around here. You don't beg anyone for any food or any milk or anything that you need. But everyone else, is doing that. So why aren't you doing that? What kind of meditation are you doing? And then when Madhavendra Puri, it's described, when he saw this boy, his heart became very satisfied. It became very peaceful. And it said that hearing his sweet words, he forgot all hunger and thirst. So it's exact same theme of this verse, that by hearing about Krishna or directly hearing Krishna, all our material suffering is destroyed. And Madhavendra Puri was quite amazed to see this beautiful boy. And he said, who are you? Where do you reside? And how did you know I was fasting? The boy replied, sir, I'm a cowherd boy, and I reside in this village. In my village, no one fasts. In this village, a person can beg from other people and thus eat. Some people drink only milk, but if a person does not ask anyone for food, I supply him all his eatables. The women who come here to take water saw you, and they supplied me with this milk and sent me to you. I must go very soon to milk the cows, but I shall return and take back this pot of milk from you. Saying this, the boy left, and he could no longer be seen. After drinking the milk, Madhavendra Puri washed the pot and put it aside. He looked towards the path where the boy had come from, but he never returned. So then later, Madhavendra Puri, he continued his chanting, and at the end of the night, he had a dream in which the same beautiful boy came and took his hand and he pulled him into the jungle. And this little cowherd boy, he showed Madhavendra Puri a bush, in the jungle. And he said that, I'm in this bush. I'm stuck here and I'm suffering very much because of severe cold, rain, showers, wind, scorching heat. So please, you bring the people of the village and take them here and get them to dig at this spot and bring me out of here. And then construct a temple for me on the hill and install me and start worshiping me. Then Madhavendra Puri realized, oh, this is Krishna. This is Gopal that came to me, and he was in ecstasy. And so Madhavendra Puri did that. He installed the Gopal deity on Govardhan Hill, and he washed Gopal with a large quantity. Well, first he got all the Vraja-basis together. They recovered the deity. Then he washed Gopal with large quantities of cold water because he'd been very hot for many, many years, buried at Govardhan Hill. It's very hot there. And he had a big festival installing the deity there. Many of the Vraja-basis came. They offered Annakuta, which is a mountain of food. And it was very nice. So, nice instruction or example that from Madhavendra Puri and his relation with Krishna is that this reciprocation between the devotee and Krishna is so, it's very sweet that he's like Krishna and the devotee. Krishna is like the devotee's best friend. He's always looking out for the devotee. He's always supplying what the devotee needs. He's always encouraging the devotee, engaging the devotee in his service, and always exchanging such nice, loving pastimes. So, we also can see every day, if we have the right consciousness, that how Krishna reciprocates with us. When some prasadam comes out of nowhere and we were really hungry and there was nothing left, or when we had a really hard day on book distribution and everyone's yelling at us and telling us we're crazy, or whatever, and then we come home and we read Bhagavad Gita, and the exact verse we needed, the exact purport we needed, is right there and makes sense of everything. So we all have had these experiences, or sometimes when we're getting too proud, and then we're walking in the street and we trip and fall over, and everyone looks at us, and it's really embarrassing. So we can actually see these things as Krishna coming to us, in these different manifestations to teach us, or to show us that, look, I'm right here, I'm right here, and I'm trying to reestablish our connection. I'm trying to reawaken this relationship. And similarly, the spiritual master is always present, and he's always available to give us instruction, to give us guidance. Srila Prabhupada is always present. One time, Gaur Govinda Swami one devotee was saying, sometimes devotees, when they say the Prema Dvani prayers, they say, Nitya-lila pravishta, which means one who's entered the eternal pastimes of the spiritual world. They've left the material world, and they've entered the eternal pastimes. And it's not shastrically wrong that, the Acharya does enter those pastimes, but the mood is that he's no longer present. He's entered the pastimes and now he's gone. So Gauranga Swami would say, this gives me great pain, to think that my Guru Maharaj isn't present, because I feel him present eternally, always, at every moment. He's always there. Yes, so that's a nice lesson that I thought about from Madhavendra Puri's example, Krishna coming to him, personally, because he says, Yoga Chema Vahamyaham, I supply, I carry what you lack and I preserve what you have. So this is Krishna personally coming, carrying what he lacks, giving him some food. And then there's also another nice pastime we can meditate on of Madhavendra Puri. And of Madhavendra Puri in when he went to Ramuna with Chirchor Gopinath. We've all heard the pastime. But he was traveling back to Vrindavan, I believe, and he visited the temple of Chirchor Gopinath, the deity, which was famous for the special kheer, sweet rice, that they would offer. And it was, it was famous all over Orissa, all over Bengal, even in Vrindavan also it was well known. So he'd heard about it, and he developed a desire to taste the sweet rice, because that way he would get an understanding of how he could make it for his Gopal deity back in Vrindavan. So, his desire was completely pure. His desire was to serve Krishna. But being a devotee, he thought himself very sinful, because the kheer was just being offered. And so he was thinking, oh no, I've desired to taste, something that isn't offered. So I've committed a sinful activity. I've committed a, offense to try and enjoy it before Krishna. So he felt very bad, and he left the temple immediately and started, very intensely performing his sadhana, his meditation, in a distant place underneath a tree. And nighttime came, and he was still all night performing his meditation, very severely, very chastising himself, chastising his mind. You fool, why did you desire to do that? That's terrible. But Krishna's Bhava-grahi Janardana. He knows the heart of his devotee. He knows his mood. So he understood exactly what Madhavendra Puri was thinking. And he was very pleased with him, and he saved a pot of the kheer and hid it behind his dhoti. And then the pujari, in his dream, Chirchor Gopinath, came to him and told him exactly what had happened. I've saved a pot of kheer, please bring it to Madhavendra Puri. He's he's over here in this market. And so the pujari immediately woke up and, was in ecstasy, took his bath and brought the pot and was calling out, Madhavendra Puri, Madhavendra Puri, where are you? Madhavendra Puri, I have something for you. And Madhavendra Puri was, doing his sadhana, and then he hears his name, Madhavendra Puri, and he's broken out of his sadhana. He says, who is there, who's there? And the pujari says, oh, Chirchor Gopinath has brought, has asked me to bring this kheer for you. And Madhavendra Puri then, realizing the merciful nature of Krishna, realizing the reciprocation between Krishna and his devotee, it's so, heart-touching, so nice. He started crying, and he, took the pot of kheer, and But then he was immediately in anxiety because he realized that, oh no, now everyone in this village is going to think I'm a great devotee, and they're going to, come and try and see me, and my bhajan will be disturbed. My meditation will be broken. Everyone's going to want to touch my feet and do all this stuff, and it's going to annoy me. And so, he immediately, Madhavendra Puri thought, oh, I have to leave, I have to get out of here. So this is another very important lesson we can learn from, our Acharya's example, is that we don't want to advertise our bhajan. We don't want to advertise our, personal service or our advancement or our austerities or, these things, because we can easily get proud. We can easily, it can easily go to the head, And then even if we are doing great things, or if Krishna does personally come to us and bring us a pot of kheer, or, he does these things, then everyone else is going to start thinking we're a great person, and they'll start coming, trying to, get our blessings and all this kind of stuff, which for a devotee is painful. He doesn't want to see himself as an object of worship for Vaishnava. It's very painful for devotees. So, so there's this injunction in Shastra that one should hide one's bhajan. One should also hide one's mantra. It's a Gopayat Guru Atmanaha, that one should keep that mantra very close to the heart. One's relationship with Guru and one's relationship with Krishna shouldn't be advertised like very cheaply, but it's kept very close to the heart. So, well, there's so many things, but we're running very short of time. So, also two last nice things is one who gives themselves heart and soul to Krishna, Krishna gives himself to them. So like with Madhavendra Puri, he had completely given his heart to serving Gopal. And in all circumstances, Gopal protected him. Gopal, reciprocated with him in such loving ways that, charm anyone's hearts who hear it. So sweet. So when one gives their heart to Krishna, he gives his heart to them. And then also, last thing is, I'm sure you guys probably know, but just interesting thing, you know what Madhavendra Puri's form is in the spiritual world in Krishna's pastime? He's a kalpa vriksha tree, which is interesting because devotees described that, generally our acharyas are in the Madhurya Ras. So sometimes when devotees hear about Madhavendra Puri, they say, what? How can he be a tree, But it's described that he's actually not just a normal tree, in Shanta Ras. He's a kalpa vriksha tree, which is in the pastime Nikunjas, the groves where Radha and Krishna meet and have their Madhurya Leelas. So he's also in Madhurya Leela. He's also, Madhurya Rati. He's also in that mood of conjugal sweetness, even though he's in the form of a kalpa vriksha tree. He's eternally assisting in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna by providing, things they need and observing their pastimes. So that's one other nice thing about Madhavendra Puri. Okay, so I guess if we have any quick comments or questions or anything.
So there's actually in Govinda Kun, deity of Madhavendra Puri.
Oh yeah,
It's really nice.
with the kartals.
It's hidden.
Yeah.
It's a really small platoons. You have to walk around if you're coming off the main to walk all the way to the other side of the Kun, and it's just a little small hut. If you don't,
The kun is big.
Yeah,
There's like
the kun
a
is
temple
big.
right by the kun, right?
Is that a samadhi or bhajan kutir?
Bhajan.
It's a bhajan kutir.
Yeah, you heard you read in the passing, we chant right by the end.
Oh, yeah, yeah. By Govinda.
And then, what was the name? Anyway, it was 2 points, but I guess I'll just make one. Oh, it was hearing with you mentioned about hearing Bhagavatam. So it said that once you hear with rapt attention,
Rapt attention, yeah.
because actually the Krishna Katha is not different than Krishna himself. So according to the attention we're giving to Krishna, that much also Krishna will manifest himself in the Katha. So that's why it's always mentioned as a qualified speaker and qualified hearer. So we should be very attentive when hearing the Krishna Katha, not just some regular words being spouted by some homeless guy on the street. That's actually the topmost thing we can lend our attention to. And then this morning I was studying some verses, and I was studying this verse, Shrama Eva Hikeva. So Shrama means useless labor. But then I was thinking ashrama, which is usually whatever we're in the brahmacharya ashrama, the grihastha ashrama, the vanaprastha ashrama, or the sannyasa ashrama. Ultimately, you have to do useful labor, not useless labor. Ashrama is meant for useful labor.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, our time is completely free to, do something useful for Krishna. That's the whole point of it. Otherwise, if we're not in this ashram, then we have to, spend so much of our time just for maintenance. Yeah.
So this temple that Madhavendra Puri established on top of Govardhan.
Yes, on top of
So
Govardhan.
what I heard previously,
He can do it. We can't.
we cannot go on Govardhan.
No. Lord Chaitanya, set the example. He wouldn't walk on Govardhan Hill.
So then who visits the temple?
Brijvasis visit it. And because Prabhupada explained that we follow in Lord Chaitanya's mood that he considered it no different than Krishna, therefore he didn't want to put his feet on Krishna, on Govardhan Hill. But the Brajbasis and I think Nimbarka, maybe I missed. But different sampradayas, they have like a different mood or a different understanding, which is also not incorrect. But we just follow Lord Chaitanya's mood more than that. Yeah, like Madhavendra Puri, for example, would obviously go on Govardhan Hill. But, depends on the mood and I guess who you're following. Of course we also follow Madhavendra Puri, but more prominently we prefer Lord Chaitanya's example in that extent. Okay. Breakfast ki jai. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.